and welcome to the session 5 of the series of Fireside Chat. My name is Mandy Mock and I'm the founder and CEO of Applied HE. Applied HE is the new kid on the block as an international higher education service provider that specializes in evaluation, branding, and professional networking solutions. Today's Fireside Chat, Recruiting and Mentoring Minority Pioneers, is led by Mrs. Winnie Ely, partner at Education Insight UK, and she's a veteran higher education leader with leadership experience in Asia, Europe, Australia, and Africa. She will be guiding today's discussion with 4 outstanding speakers from different parts of the world, and she will be introducing them to you all very shortly. Please allow me to also thank Hasanuddin University of Indonesia for being the main sponsor of this series of Applied HE Fireside Chats. Hasanuddin University is a leading research-driven comprehensive university located in Makassar, South Sulawesi Province, Indonesia. Both Hasanuddin University and the island of Sulawesi are true undiscovered gems, and UNHAS, as they're also known, is keen to explore further collaboration with international partners. I would also like to thank Education Insight as our co-hosting partner and our amazing panelists who have agreed to join us for what promises to be a very exciting and insightful fireside chat. Now, without further ado, allow me to hand over to our very capable and always charming Mrs. Winnie Ely.
Thanks, Mandy, for the introduction. Welcome to Apply HE Fireside Chat. For colleagues who joined us in the last 4 months, welcome back. For colleagues who join us for the first time, a warm welcome. The Apply HE Fireside Chat brings to you a global panel of knowledgeable and passionate speakers on topical issues that we care about. Today's topic is recruiting and mentoring minority pioneers. The Apply HE Fireside Chat is designed to be cozy, relaxed, engaging, and at the same time serious, fun, provocative, thought-provoking, and blue sky. We're asking a lot. Most important of all, we welcome a lively interaction between our speakers and participants. Many of you have posted your questions when you registered. We will invite you to ask your questions once our 4 speakers have had their 3-minute monologues. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speakers, Professor Themis Potromakis, Professor of Nanotechnology and Director of the Centre for Electronics Frontiers at the University of Southampton in the UK. Professor Potromakis holds a Royal Academy of Engineering Chair in Emerging Technologies and a Royal Society Industry Fellowship. He's also a Fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry, the British Computer Society, and the Institute of Physics. Themis, your 3 minutes start now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnie, for the invitation. So I think I'd like to start with something that I heard is not my own saying, but it's a very true statement that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And I think it's extremely important to have that in mind when we are out in recruiting and discussing about recruiting in a balanced kind of way. The other thing that is very difficult when it comes to sort of sciences, like engineering, for example, and recruiting in these STEM subjects is to have a diverse audience, if you like, and diverse sort of range of students, like both in terms of ethnicity as well as in terms of sex and in terms of different backgrounds. So from experience that we had previously with different programs, I had the opportunity to work with the Lloyd's Register Foundation and leading the very first international consortium for nanotechnologies that supports over 50 PhDs worldwide. We've seen that indeed talent exists everywhere. And what we've done with that program, we've brought the opportunity to these different people to really showcase who they are. But I think what's also particularly important in academia is to really, if we really want to make a big change and going forward, we need to start really early. And what I mean by that, starting early, we need to start by talking to primary school students, talking to A-level students about the prospects that they could have in the different sort of environments that can be exposed. I've done that myself with regards to engineering sciences. And what it takes is not talk about the technical challenges that they're going to be facing, but give them the big picture. And that's something that the Royal Academy of Engineering have shown the evidence that if you show the big picture to your audience, they can see what the technologies, let's say, they develop some hardware, what this can actually impact can have in society. Then you have equally female and male students attracted to it. So I think these are my, if you like, 3 minutes. I don't know if I'm within the 3 minutes, but a few thoughts to sort of kick off our discussion. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Themis. Start early and give them a big picture. Those are two big anchors. Thank you. And I remember your photo with a lot of young people in Africa, I think it was Africa, that you share with us. So yeah, that sort of reminded me of some of the great work that you have done. Thank you. We'll come back to that. Dr. Elizabeth Lee, Chief Executive Officer of Sunway Education Group in Malaysia, will speak next. Dr. Lee holds a Master of Philosophy in Education from the University of Cambridge. She is a council member of the Malaysian Qualification Agency. She was honored by the Sunway Chill Media Group as Educationalist of the Year in 2019. Elizabeth, the next 3 minutes is all yours.
Thank you very much, Winnie. Hello to everyone from Malaysia. It is nighttime now, as you can see from my window. When Mandy first invited me to join all of you on this fireside chat series, I was wondering what was this recruiting and mentoring minority pioneers? And I actually got a little bit desperate and texted Mandy only just now. And I said, exactly what do you mean by minority pioneers? She says, oh, just talk about inclusivity. But, you know, having had a great think about it, obviously, if I think about the minority pioneers in my own country, they would very much be about what we call our Aboriginal people in Malaysia. And they are the original people who were here. They own the land originally, and but nevertheless, they are in a way not quite disadvantaged in many ways, and they are definitely a minority. And when I think of what we have been doing, and I'm very glad to report that at least in the Sunway Education Group, which is owned by the Jeffrey Chia Foundation, we've had the opportunity to provide scholarships, and we have actually been targeting these minority groups, for example, our Aborigine students. And so we've got something known as the community scholarships. And through the Jeffrey Chia Foundation, I'm very happy to report that we have been able to empower and enable quite a number of people in this community. In fact, to date, we have given round about $500 million of scholarships, because the whole Sunway Education Group is actually put under a foundation. So when I also think about the subject of education, I'm reminded of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 and Convention Against Discrimination in Education in 1960, which say that obtaining education is an inalienable right of human beings. Basically, that higher education should be equally accessible to all on basis of merit and, of course, on basis of individual capacity. So that is very much in providing education, but we also believe that education will definitely close the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Also closing the gap between the differences, because all of us will come together and we bring with us differences in culture, differences in languages, and that usually is what happens with discrimination, because people are just different from us. But the whole idea is if you put everyone together, they learn about each other's cultures and then you close the gap. Professor Themis just talked about that it's not just providing education, but within education, when I say closing the gap, I think it is also important that we educate this whole idea of inclusivity, so that the ones who come to us then will take this away and propagate that to the next generations. So to us, that is very important. It's not just having ourselves be inclusive, but actually educating the next generation to be just as inclusive. This idea of that we need to take care of the little ones and make sure that no one is left behind is something that is very close to the clarion cry of Sunway. For example, right now in lockdown and where we have to relegate all our teaching online, the importance of making sure that the ones who do not have such good internet access. So even though we could have been told to close the institution down, we can't really do that because we have to remain open, at least for those who do not have good internet access, to actually come on board and come back on campus and make use of that, for example. So just a few thoughts. I know I only have 3 minutes, and I'm looking forward to discussion later on and see how we can expand this subject a lot more. Thank you.
Brilliant. Elizabeth, you touched on a few key big words, using scholarships, making sure that, inclusivity is done properly, but the caring side that you talk about. So yeah. I think you have planted some seeds and some sort of key pointers again for discussion later on. Our next speaker is Dr. Lauren Jean Edmonds, former Vice Provost of Global Affairs, Director of the Center for International Studies, and Professor in the Colleges of Health Sciences and Professions at Ohio University in the USA. Her academic and administrative interests and leadership style include continuous learning and implementing actions for advancing inclusive and cooperative governance, which is very interesting. So let's listen to LJ for 3 minutes. LJ, please.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, where everybody is around the world. This is quite an exceptional opportunity. I've also really enjoyed the previous two speakers. I think they have touched on some critical pieces. And just to sort of leverage what they were talking about, I have, as an executive educator, I have a sort of a similar vision to Temis in that although the opportunities aren't everywhere, I firmly believe that today talent is mobile and ideas are borderless. And it's up to us to tap into all of those, because when we look at the issues of today, we really need creativity and innovation, and we haven't got the answers, and there is no panacea. And so everybody counts in this world, particularly today. Secondly, I also firmly believe that as a mentor and as an executive, your vision needs to be the same. What are your goals? Because it's about the people. And what do we want to create? And I really believe that an educational institution is a lived experience, but if we aren't clear on what our vision for the world is, it's very hard for us to then graduate the next generation of leaders. So in my role as a mentor and as a global affairs person responsible for the strategy, I have 5 pillars that I think about in terms of when our students graduate or when I've mentored somebody, what do I want them to walk away with? And these are what they are. I want them to be confident. I want them to be confident. I want them to be competent. I want them to be connected, cooperative, and compassionate. And I think that leverages what Elizabeth was talking about. When you think about innovation today, it's not about innovation for the sake of innovation. It's not about passion. Passion is an individual goal. Compassion is about innovation for the sustainability of our species and humankind. And I think that's a critical shift that we need to transition into as global leaders, as institutions, is that we need to think very clearly about our discoveries, our innovations, and the people who are going to be that next generation. And they have to be inclusive of everybody, and they have to be compassionate. I also firmly believe that it's really hard for minority people to get ahead. I am a firm supporter, as Elizabeth mentioned, in setting targets. I think that is has been demonstrated that the only way to mobilize equality is to really set clear objectives and profile the exceptional contributions that everybody makes. I really believe in what Temis was saying, in that you need to start early. You need to teach cooperation. You need to, and I have a term called coopetition, in that I believe firmly in competition, but I think the playing ground has to be equal. And you need to educate people that when they compete, they have to also look at other people with mutual respect. They don't bully. That's not how you compete. You compete on an equal playing ground, and you learn to build mutual respect amongst each other. And then the best innovation goes forward. Not necessarily the best person, the best innovation, because it's the collective insights of everybody's contribution, even your competitor, moving forward. So let me stop there, because I know we want to open the conversation, but I really like this topic. I think it's a critical piece. And I guess my final message is that your broad vision of your organization or your institution, to me, has to be a lived experience as an individual. And that expectation is the same as the person you're mentoring, not just you as a mentor. It is truly a journey that you must do collectively and together. Thank you.
Thanks, LJ. You make it sound so easy. There are some key components there. So look forward for the discussion later on how actually the lived experience can be lived, and you build a culture to embrace all of the above. I'm just full of envy at the moment. So thank you. Last but not least, Dr. Kevin Downing, Secretary to Council and Court and Director of Institutional Research Office at City University of Hong Kong in Hong Kong. Dr. Downing is a chartered psychologist and chartered scientist with a current license to practice. His published work centers on psychology, education, and metacognitive development. Kevin, the stage, or should I say the screen, is all yours in the next 3 minutes.
Thank you, Winnie. Lovely to see you, and I hope very much Douglas is well now, and we'll talk about that later anyway. Thank you, everyone. I've really enjoyed comments from Temis, Elizabeth, and LJ, and I don't think there's anything I terribly disagree with, but I suppose I'm going to give a personal statement as a psychologist, which you're not often allowed to do. But I want to do it because it reflects on what LJ had to say about a lived experience. I hope people won't find this too provocative, but having searched my soul over this for many, many years, this is what I truly believe and why I entered into international education in the first place. LJ asked what my goals were. Now, if I look at my goals for recruiting and mentoring, my goals are simple. I just want to appoint the best person for the job. And then I want to care for them and assist them to do the best possible job that they can do. I can honestly say, hands on heart, that is my goal. There is no ulterior motive. I'm not saying that from time to time we all don't need reminding to have one eye on ensuring that we are implementing that goal and that we are being fair across the board. I've been fortunate to work with colleagues from all backgrounds, some of which are on the screen, some are amongst the attendees across the globe. And many of those colleagues I can actually say are like friends, and in some cases like family. I certainly seem to spend more time talking to them than I do with families sometimes. My problems with what we're discussing, I think, have probably been well aired before, but definitions of minority, Elizabeth, I'm fully with you on this. Definitions of minority move. So in the UK, I'm definitely not a minority, but I've worked in Hong Kong for the last 10 years where I am a minority. I would say a somewhat privileged on one hand and not so privileged on another hand minority, but a minority nonetheless. I don't feel that that's an impediment to me, although I understand that some minorities might feel that they are. I think the other issue I have is when we talk about minority pioneers, we're subsuming a very important concept, and that's this concept of positive discrimination, which I have real issues with. A very prominent black newsreader here in the UK who used to live very close to me, Sir Trevor MacDonald, in accepting a BAFTA award, actually said he totally disagreed with positive discrimination because it destroys what LJ was talking about, meritocracy. And I just want to expand on that a little bit, but first of all, ask everyone who's watching a question. Would you really want to get a job based or through positive discrimination? If you're a minority, whatever that might be in whatever context, would you really want to get a job on that basis? Discriminations, whether it's positive or negative, is terribly wrong, dreadful, and anathema to all intelligent, educated people. Yes, minority groups around the world, as Elizabeth pointed out, have been prejudiced against in the past, but implementing a system of positive discrimination is not helping at all, because by its very nature, you're discriminating against the other party involved. And whilst positive discrimination was created with great intentions and has helped many people, it's also helping to perpetuate the stereotypes that divide some members of our communities. And it suggests that certain people in the minority are not actually as good as the others are, and they wouldn't be able to advance in the world without positive discrimination. I don't buy that. I've worked with many people in many countries from all sorts of races, religions, and backgrounds, and I've found that none of them would want to be able to say that they've only advanced due to positive discrimination. It's an insult to women. I would be absolutely mortified. And I'm sure Elizabeth and LJ would, although I don't want to speak for them, that in being selected for a job, it was on the basis that they're female, rather than you being the best person for the job. Women are as capable as men when it comes to succeeding in society, so shouldn't need or want to be subject to any form of positive discrimination. International law states that. And so positive discrimination is a breach of that. I'm of the view that we should ensure that, again, I agree with LJ on this, the important thing is love and care for our fellow human beings. Some minorities might be people in poverty. Other minorities might be people at the other end of the financial scale. Wherever someone comes from, whatever their background, whatever their gender, and all the other isms that we can place on things, surely it's love and genuine care for our fellow human beings and listening being the key. And here I completely agree with my fellow panelists that education is the key. And in terms of mentoring, there are two things for me. One is appoint the best person for the job, irrespective of anything else. Secondly, mentor those people with love, care, and listen to their concerns. That's my three minutes worth, Winnie.
Thank you, Kevin. That's very powerful in terms of appointing the best person and the mentoring. And I'm hearing you agreeing, and actually all the speakers have been agreeing with each other quite a lot. So that will make an interesting discussion later on. Before we open the interaction between panelists and participants, given that our panelists is agreeing with each other so much, I'm going to give you a bit more time to have this floor between yourself for any comments, observations, questions, or if you're agreeing, agree more, but if you're disagreeing or wanting to find an area that you want to explore a little bit more. And I'm just going to throw out one particular one first, is to start early. I'm absolutely agreeing with them is that you have to start early, but a lot of the time, for all sorts of reasons, people don't start early. And what would you do, or what are your great tips to make sure that actually that message penetrate, to make sure that actually we do start early? And
shall I respond to that? I think first of all, it's our duty to do this. I mean, when I look back throughout my career, I'm standing where I'm standing because I actually had people to inspire me all the way through. I still remember, like some of my undergrad students, teachers, or even people, like that taught me back at high school, all right? And they really inspired me to become an engineer. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing this job, like nowadays. So I think that's particularly important. And I've seen some of the comments raised by some of our people who are watching us online, that yes, we do need to have more role models. So I think I don't like to really call it a role model, because it comes a little bit of an idealism with that. But I think if people are doing the best that they can in terms of providing the best mentorship, the best like service to the students, and also think that it's part of the duty to start early and go out and do outreach activities and explain in simple terms what is that they do. This period of that we've been in lockdown has been quite an interesting period for all of us to do a little bit of self-reflecting, right? And staying at home and having to do all these long day meetings, and my family sort of gets to see a little bit of what dad is doing, right? So I have to test basically what is it that I do with my kids every day. And I realize that although I feel that I'm quite competent in explaining in relatively simple terms what is it that I do, if I can explain it, if I can get it across like to my kids and my family, then I'm doing probably something wrong. So as Einstein used to say, things should be as simple as possible, but not any simpler. But also, if you're not able to explain something in simple terms, it means that you don't actually profess that, you're not an expert in that. So I think it's a duty for professors, for academics, for everyone, even from industry, to get out there and promote and start really early from primary school students, talk about STEM, talk about what does it take to be a scientist, like just for one day. Bring them in your own shoes and see all the excitement that you see in your profession, and then let them choose themselves. They know they are actually quite competent, and I totally agree with Kevin that in the end of the day, people should be hiring the best people for the job that's been advertised. Okay, otherwise it is positive discrimination. I totally agree. And also, people would be miserable if they were to be employed in a job that it's out of their own remit. I think we need to really start early. We need to explain to our kids, first of all, that everyone can become an engineer. Apologies if I'm insisting on engineering, because I think it's a taboo subject these days for women to be engineers. But when I look within my own research group, where half of the staff are female engineers, I dare to say that my fellow colleagues, the male postdocs and students that I have, they have a really, really tough job to compete with them. They're brilliant. So absolutely, there is nothing wrong with having, women in engineering, but simply they have to understand that they actually have everything it takes to do this job. And that's why we need to start early and remove all of these taboos that societies are putting in place.
Winnie, can I come back on to this? Because he's prompted me. Actually, in China, I think I'm right in saying there's still a very long tradition of female engineers. And certainly I know many female engineers from mainland China. I just want to come back on some of the chat comments, because I want to thank Charlene Allen and also Professor, sorry, I'm just trying to find your name. It's not coming up on here. Judith Lamy. I think you make some very good points, along with Jack Lee and Ethan Gaines. First of all, Charlene and Judith, thank you very much for reminding me. You're absolutely right. Our problem quite often, I think particularly in educated parts of societies around the world, our problem is that women do not, let's just look at the gender issue first. Women often do not feel like they should apply for something, and therefore they don't get an equal shot. Now, I'll give you a personal experience of this. For many years, I've run debates for a big ranking agency, and I've run a few now also for Applied HE. I have the devil's own job to get a gender balance, particularly some of the ones that I run in the Middle East. I have a terrible job to get a gender balance on the panel. And I like to have a gender balance because then you have a diverse range of views. I also like to have a balance of different countries' representation on those panels. So I think one of the issues we do need to nuance and think about, I'm nodding to Ethan and Jack here, is we need to encourage women, as Judith says, to apply for jobs in the first place. They need to know that when they are shortlisted or interviewed, that is going to be done on the basis of the best person, the best fit for the job, irrespective of anything else. So I just wanted to make that point because that's clearly an interesting area that's been brought up by at least 4 of the attendees on the chat. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you. I'm just looking to, I think, Elizabeth, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Winnie. Now, I was just going to, I have been reflecting on what Kevin and Themis just said. And especially when Kevin went on about positive discrimination and all of us are agreeing, yeah, we shouldn't discriminate. And yet a lot have been said about positive discrimination, both the pros and the cons, even though that Kevin has been talking about the cons more than the pros. I look at positive discrimination in another way. I don't think you should give the job to the person just because she's female or she's from a minority group. I don't think that's right, and you can't force fit everything. You know, it just doesn't work. However, I think it is important to highlight and give opportunities, which is what you also mentioned, in a way that forces us to look at alternatives. I'll give you an example of, I was on this particular judging committee. It was called the Newman Creative Pioneer Awards. And it also had the word pioneer, and the whole idea was to look at the different industries and to pick up who are the ones who are very different and are pioneering ideas and yet making it really great. And so there was performing arts, there was F&B, pure arts, science, and everything. And I was delighted that in the first year, for the performing arts, instead of, you know, your usual, a wonderful ballerina, or, you know, a wonderful saxophonist, or, you know, a dramatist or something like that, we actually picked a pole dancer. It was a strange one, I must say. You know, the judges were kind of like, I said, look, these are Pioneer Awards, and we really want to pick something that's different. Someone who has actually perfected the art of pole dancing, taken it away from all the stigma associated with sexuality. Yes, it is still very sensual, but nevertheless, she has perfected it into an art form. And I believe that needs to come forward and needs to be brought to the forefront for people to appreciate that this can be something else rather than something that's not good. and not so nice. Then a couple of years later, we actually chose a couple of bartenders to win the F&B award. You know, plenty of entrepreneurs, plenty of wonderful chefs, everything in the F&B industry, but we picked a couple of bartenders. And again, two young men who had just brought bartending and mixology into an art and a thriving business. And we just felt that that opportunity should be given to them. And when we picked them for the F&B sector, what is most interesting is as we evaluated everything, we actually gave them, at the end of the day, the Finest Super Achiever Award, because they were just, you know, very different from the rest of the people who were coming forward. So I just believe that opportunities need to be given. We need to go out and look, whether you call this positive discrimination or not. I think it's a positive discrimination of some kind, and to offer that opportunity so that you know, the usual discrimination then can be dispelled because you bring out something good instead. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think those are very
a few thoughts there.
Yeah, amazing examples, because it's really moving out sort of from the stereotype, but looking at it from a very different lens as well. I'm just looking. LJ, do you want to say anything before we start interaction with participants?
Yeah, so I have a couple of observations. First, implicit bias is real. Committees deciding the lives of somebody else is real. And if that committee is not already a pre-designed committee that is truly inclusive, they are very biased. And we know that unless you create expectations and incentives to change, it will not occur. There is tons of evidence to show that. I firmly believe that you should not use the word empower as an executive. If I am empowering you, that means I have control over you and I can take it away. My job as an administrator is to create the conditions that each individual can decide how they wish to be empowered themselves. And that means that you have to create opportunity. And in some cases, the best person for the job is somebody other than other people who've been chosen in the past. And it is people from minority representation. And going back to what Temis was saying, you know, for the young generation to be inspired, they need to see themselves in those leadership roles. And if you do not create opportunities for people to see that the best people in those roles are people from diverse backgrounds, and you as a mentor ensure that you create the conditions so that they can succeed. Because I think the thing that we forget about minority persons, which is very real, is that they have faced barriers that we can't even imagine. For some minority persons, it's centuries, generations of barriers. And so unless you see how complex that is, and you be humble in your recognition that you do not understand their historical context as an individual, then we need to be very careful about the language that we use, about the infrastructures that we create, and that the role models that we want to exemplify the future of humanity. And I don't see another way to do that without creating scholarships, creating professional opportunities, ensuring that every student or every individual who wants to go to school can go. You know, access is absolutely essential for everybody. And, you know, the thing I worked with people with disabilities that launched my vision for the world was, you know, a real recognition that when people with disabilities benefit, we all benefit. And so I have an absolute conviction that anytime I'm given an opportunity, it's my job to give an opportunity to everybody else. And that's a big job, because you have to let go of your executive powers. You have to be confident enough as a leader to let go and create the environment where others make decisions, where others lead, where others succeed. And you're behind the scenes. And it's really hard for that, because people tend to want to control. And so, I, like, for example, when in my courses, I don't allow our students to use the word help or care, for example. And just to go back to Kevin's comment, of course we care. But I think the important thing is that you need to, when you're creating opportunities for others, you need them to succeed, but you also need to allow them to fail. I mean, that's life. Life's journey is about resilience and building that. And you've got to create the environment that they can do that. And that's what education does. It gives everybody a chance, not just to succeed, but to actually fail in their journeys. I mean, how many scholars and discoverers have failed for most of their career? In many other locations, you're not allowed to do that. So that's why I really believe that the education system is the lived experience, is to give people that opportunity to succeed. And sometimes that's through failure. And that's very much about me and all of us in executive roles letting go of our roles and creating the conditions for others to move forward, even if it means giving up your role for somebody else. Because at this point in time, the best person for the job is a person from another perspective, another culture, another religion, another just background, disability, whatever. It just, sometimes that is the best person for the job at this point in time.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, LJ.
Winnie, can I just come back just very briefly on something LJ said? It's just a very simple comment. I agree with most of what she said, except, of course, we care. I've been around long enough and I've worked in enough places around the world to know that there are many people out there, LJ, that do not care. Yes, we might care, you might care, but there are a lot of people out there that don't care. They don't care enough to ask the question and to listen properly to the answer.
Thanks, Kevin. You're absolutely right. I'm just trying to look at all the chats, and actually all of you have been trying to address some of the questions or comments coming in. I'm going to now give the microphone. I'm going to open up the microphone to the audience, obviously, for an interaction. And I saw a name that I think I'm going to invite him to ask a question. He already posed 3 questions. Jack, are you there? I have given you the microphone, Jack Lee.
Hello.
Hi there. Jack, you have a number of really good questions. Do you want to take this opportunity and throw them out here?
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, my point is really about the issue of equity and equality. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've done research in Malaysia. I understand the Bumaputra policy. That's also an example of positive discrimination, as we discussed. And as you well know, affirmative action in the United States, right, for race-based entrance in higher education. I just think equality has perhaps not served us as well as we expected. So there's seemingly an assumption that meritocracy will work, even though we have these laws. But, in many contexts, this has played out where minorities, whatever that it could be, gender, ability, or sexual orientation, have not made progress. So why do we continue to talk about sort of this assumed meritocracy?
If I may, because you brought up Malaysia and you brought up the Bumiputra, the Bumiputra policy is quite interesting because it's a positive discrimination for a majority group rather than a minority group. So, and it's felt at that point that this is very important purely because it was what you called an equity issue. We had, the majority of the people at that time who were Bumiputra were very were considered to be living in economically disadvantaged conditions, and so there was this need to bring them up, which was why the affirmative action. Ethan Ganesh mentioned in the chat something about, sometimes you can't just say, no positive discrimination, because there are times when you need to give somebody, a hand, to lift them up. And so that affirmative action was supposed to have done that for the Bumiputras. Obviously, with actions such as this, it is a knife that actually cuts both ways. And you have to be very careful, because the so-called affirmative action can become a discriminatory action as well. And hence, if you were to look from the other hand, it was felt that from affirmative that it was very discriminatory, and it wasn't really helping, because it just felt like it was a lot of handouts, for example. But nevertheless, it was important, because otherwise you have a majority group who are socially disadvantaged or economically disadvantaged. It can't be good for a nation. So I thought I should sort of bring that up at this point in time.
Elizabeth, Jack, before you go, could you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
Oh, okay. My name is Jack Lee. I'm a lecturer in comparative education and education policy at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. I am Canadian, Taiwanese originally.
Thank you very much, Jack. I'm going to let you go now. Thank you.
Can I just say, I'd just say hi to Jack, because he also took part in a square debate, squaring the circle debate with Applied HE, and I complimented him then on the picture, the James Dean leather jacket. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. It's a shame we haven't got video, Jack, because I could tell how old that picture was then. Can you hear okay? I've lost your
It's my fault. So
okay.
I'm conscious of time, so let's catch up later on. And I think, oh, Jack is there. So brilliant. Shall we move on? I've got 10 minutes left. So I'm going to, because of time, and it's a very lively discussion, so I'm going to just draw it back together, and I'm going to invite our speakers to use 1 minute. This is a trick that Kevin taught me. In 60 seconds, a final comment before we wrap up the session. So it's in reverse order, Kevin, is also your trick. So we start with you, and then LJ and Elizabeth, and then Themis. So 60 seconds each. Thank you, speakers.
Okay, I'm very touched by many of the comments made, very thought-provoking from the attendees. I just want to come back and say to Jack that I don't think meritocracy is a myth. I think meritocracy is alive and well in some places. I can't even choose countries. I know for a fact that I left the UK thinking it was fairly meritocratic, and I arrived in Hong Kong to find that it was far more meritocratic, despite a different regime there than the UK was. And I can see Winnie nodding, having had similar experience. In the UK, I can honestly say, working at University of Exeter, I was discriminated against because I was first generation university goer. And I was considered to be a working class oik. I actually heard that term used about me. I don't feel bitter towards those people, because all that did was make me more and more determined to ensure that I always tried to act in a meritocratic way. So, I thank you for raising that issue and allowing us to put that nuance on things. With that, I would just like to go back to my initial comment that I think that the real key here is education, educating everyone, including yourself, by listening educating people to be understanding, caring, to take up a multiple perspective, a different perspective. And you only get that by listening. One final thing. I have a person who delivers a parcel to my door regularly here in the UK. Now, I find gender switching, cross-dressing, etc. challenging for me, strange, because I don't understand it. So a week or so ago, I invited her into my home for a coffee. And I said, look, in return for the coffee, would you just help me a bit, answer some questions? Because this is a man with a hairy chest that wears a pink vest and has a long wig. He was a delight, an absolute delight. And he's delivered something since and said, where's my coffee? And we've sat and had coffee together. Now, he got appointed to his parcel delivery job dressed like that. And that's why I think there is hope, that even people that might not be as well educated as we are can understand the notion of meritocracy. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kevin. LJ?
Oh, I could say so many things. So as Kevin said, I think education is the panacea if your education model is about building competence, confidence, connections, cooperation, and compassion. And that you're thrust into a world now where it's not innovation for the sake of innovation, but it's for the sake of everyone to benefit from. And I think those are some of our new challenges as educationalists and leaders moving forward. And lastly, I just want to go back to my earlier comment that Temis started off with. Talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And I think that is really, really very profound. And it is our jobs to create the opportunities, to create the environment so that everybody can empower themselves in the way that they want to lead their lives. And I just want to end that education is not in a university. Education is a journey. And it's about the education of the public and the citizen, of which universities play a role. In fact, I think we need to be more global influencers than we've been in the past by being a lived experience, an example to the rest of the world of what is possible. Because not everybody has the opportunity to go to university, and not everybody needs to go to university. But if we are an example to others, that maybe then can play out into our conversations with our neighbors, our conversations with our stakeholders, both in the public and the private sector. So thank you. This has been a really wonderful conversation with everybody, but I think there are some critical messages that we need to think about as executive leaders, whether we're faculty members or in leadership positions where we can shape the future.
Well summarized. Thank you, LJ. Absolutely with you on that. Elizabeth?
Thank you. I totally agree with LJ. Thought she stole half my spiel. Well, the idea that, to wrap up, recruiting and mentoring minority pioneers. I keep looking at this topic of ours. And when we talk about recruiting, really it is about what LJ just said, providing opportunities. It's so difficult. We get so many wonderful candidates who come up to us, whether it's for scholarships or whether it is for a job or whatever it is. How do we provide an opportunity to the ones who are sometimes, what do you mean by most deserving? Or would it be most in need? And that's what we need to answer these questions. How we need to answer these questions for ourselves, because if we're talking about providing opportunities, then we really maybe we need to look at not just the one who is most capable or best for the job, but also one who will benefit the most from it, right? And then talking about mentoring, whenever we talk about mentorship, it's very much one-on-one. That is not enough. we need to enable more mentors, and I think that should be the role of mentors as well, to go out there, not just to mentor another person, but to enable many more mentors so that, you know, the message can be spread, and we can go ahead and enable so many more people and bring them into the fold, which is actually what education is all about. But nevertheless, while as teachers, as lecturers, as professors, we tend to teach or lecture to a whole big group, the one-on-one is very important, because again, the one-on-one is where we are able to find out what exactly a person needs and how exactly we are able to help them go that little, make that little step further, and give that little push upwards, you know, that everyone's been looking for. So I think I just wanted to end on that note with some thoughts on that. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. You're right. Mentoring needs to be scaled up rather than one-on-one. We can do more. Last but not least, Themis.
I just wanted to sort of close by reiterating a few of the points I've made earlier. We spoke about starting early and that, you know, talent is everywhere. I think, you know, we need to start early, but not just within our own zone of comfort, not just within our own neighborhood. And I think it's quite exciting nowadays that we see this shift in the perspectives of I'm talking about academia mainly at the moment, where they go out, they do outreach activities, they try to promote, you know, like everything that they can in order to start early. But about a year ago, I had the opportunity to visit Ghana, and I was amazed by the spark that you could see, you know, like in young kids sort of coming and talking to me. They are fantastic. I mean, we are this is a fantastic resource. I mean, there is a great pool of talent that we are not really utilizing well, and we're not giving them the opportunity. So if we don't start early with them, and we only, you know, like go and talk to them when they are at high school, or when they are even at a later stage, at the university stage, I'm afraid that's actually quite late, because they're not competitive enough to, you know, like to the sort of international standards in a way, and therefore, you know, like we will be making selections again, as Kevin said, based on you know, like meritocracy, right? Which is fair to do, but we will be losing, you know, like the access to that sort of pool of talent, whether it's in South America, whether it's from Africa, whether it's from Asia. There is loads of talent that we can actually nurture if we start early. So I think it's the next sort of wave that I would like to see from academia and from governments going forward, not just because of the sake of gaining some soft power, but investing into starting early, in inspiring and nurturing this talent from early on, so that we can have a more balanced knowledge sharing and more balanced opportunity share across the globe, and therefore, you know, leading to a more sustainable world overall.
Absolutely agree. I mean, I don't normally say anything after speakers, but I just want to share, in the good old days of British Council, we did have a Science Alive program that starts very early for STEM, starting from the age of 5. But anyway, that's for another time. For colleagues who have joined us, I hope you have enjoyed today's Apply HE Fireside Chat. I know you can't clap, but I still want you to put your hands together for our incredible panel members. I'm going to use first name to say thank you this time. Themis, Elizabeth, LJ, Kevin, and obviously the Apply HE team, Mandy, Simon, and Peter, and all of you who join us from different parts of the world. Thank you for joining us, and see you next month. Mandy.
Thank you very much to our moderator, to our organizer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Winnie. Good job, as always.
Thank you so much.
Mandy, switch off your mute. You're on mute. You need to unmute.
Are we still on?
Yeah, Mandy.
Just ourselves.
We are.
You're mute.
Yeah,
No,
Mandy, you're
everything
mute.
is still on.
I am sorry.
There we go.
There you are. We've got you now.
We're a boomer, sorry. Um,
It's not like you to be speechless, Mandy. Come on.
sorry, can you see my screen?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
we got it. We
Okay,
got it.
great. Right, I want to say thank you everyone for the very insightful comments and questions. I've learned a lot and I hope you all did too. I'd like to express my deep appreciation to our wonderful speakers and moderator for their time and contribution, and also thank you, our delightful participants, for joining us for this session 5 of the Applied AG Fireside Chat. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Hasanuddin University of Indonesia, for their valuable support, and our hosting partner, Education Insight UK. While this marks the end of this particular webinar, we have many more events planned. Next month is session 6 of our Fireside Chat series, which is about the civic responsibilities of universities. What roles do the social sciences and natural sciences play? As always, it promises to be another insightful discussion. Mrs. Winnie Ely, Partner of Education Insight from the UK, is our moderator again, and we have 3 very distinguished speakers from Germany, UK, and Indonesia to provide that global perspective. The Fireside Chat is held on every 3rd Wednesday of the month, with the next edition scheduled on Wednesday, 18th November at 9 p.m. Singapore time. This slide shows you the future dates for our series of Fireside Chats, and it will go on to the end of the year, where actually it's just another 2 more months. Seriously, how time flies this year. Registration is now open for session 6, scheduled on Wednesday, 18 November. Our other regular event, Squaring the Circle Debate, is scheduled for next month on Wednesday, 4th November at 9 p.m. Singapore time. For the first time, we have invited speakers from the industry to participate. They are Lily and Ziming, and they are the proposers. We then have Prof. Christine and Prof. Chen, both academics, as opposers. And the debate motion is, universities inadequately prepare students for the job market. Our debate master is, of course, Dr. Kevin Downing, whom you've already heard him tonight. Please do join us for what looks to be a very interesting debate with speakers from the industry and the university. In fact, there is a Squaring the Circle debate every first Wednesday of the month for the rest of the year, which is another 2 more episodes to go. For those of you who want to learn a bit more about what Applied HE is all about, we will be organizing our Applied HE Exchange for the Central Asian region, or CAR as they're known, plus Russia, on Wednesday, 28th of October. That's next Wednesday, by the way. And aside from myself and Peter, we have Professor Yo Kiet Singh, author of the World University Research Ranking, who will be presenting his new ranking system. Although targeted at CAR and plus Russia, everyone is welcome to join this webinar. There is no geographical restriction. In the meantime, do check out our Applied HE Extra News website, where you can submit your institution's news and press releases. In the short time since we've launched this website, we are pleased to announce that Applied HE Extra News is now indexed by Google News. This means our readership is growing rapidly, and we can now truly promote you on the global stage, and at no charge at all. This is great news for both readers and institutions who publish news via the Applied HE online news platform. Also, do take a look at our Applied HE Job Ready rating. This new rating system emphasizes teaching and learning, graduate skills, employability, and interaction with industry. The rating is also non-prescriptive and can be applied to different types of institutions across different sectors, from full-fledged research universities to specialized institutions. Please drop us a line if you would like to learn more about the Job Ready rating and how it can translate into very affordable strategies for global branding and marketing. We're also in the process of launching a pilot to evaluate English as a medium of instruction, whereby we measure the quality and depth of an institution's English language programs, especially for institutions from non-English speaking countries which offer English language degree programs. The Applied HE EMI Ready rating can be a useful internal benchmarking tool and a great marketing tool for the recruitment of international students. So do reach out to us if you would like to join the pilot. Again, it's free, and we still have some open places for certain countries. And finally, I'm pleased to announce that we will be launching Applied HE's own social media platform called Applied HE Future at the start of January 2021. Applied HE Future offers the 3 E's: education, employment, and everything in between. And they're the most important career milestones in life, from the moment you're a high school student to being a student in higher education to being a successful graduate, employer, entrepreneur, or even an alumni donor. And all these stakeholders will be centered around the institutions and industry. There is nothing like this in the market today, so we are in a very blue ocean indeed. So please watch out for the launch. And last but not least, as you know, we are the new kid on the block, and we're very grateful for all the support that we can get, which is why I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge once again all our very supportive webinar partners: City University of Hong Kong, Airlangga University of Indonesia, Hasanuddin University of Indonesia, the University of Lahore of Pakistan, Chinese Cultural University from Taiwan, Changchun Christian University from Taiwan, Pearl Academy of India, Education Insight UK, and JL Education Consultants. A big thank you for the valuable support given to Applied HE. All right, thanks very much, everyone. However, the evening is not over yet, so please do not leave the chat room. We want you to experience a networking atmosphere that is as creative and as close as we can get to a physical networking environment. We're going to open the room so that you can see each other and perhaps say hi and introduce yourself. So please be sure to turn on your cameras. We'll play some music, have a drink, relax. The room is all yours. And over to you now, Peter, to get our social event started.
Hello, everyone. I'm slowly promoting you to panelists now. Let's see if that works well. Give me 1 second. Yes, so you're slowly be upgraded. So please switch on your camera if you'd like to join us.
Hi, Nesta.
And hopefully you can on music now too. Is that right?
Hi, Nesta.
Okay, very good. And of course, if you want to be shy, that's fine too. You can just hide and turn off your camera. We understand. If you have a meeting to be at, so breakfast or whatever.
Come on, guys. Turn on your
Okay, I think that's everybody. It's a very exclusive gathering this afternoon or this evening.
Hi, Norietta.
Well, anyway, thank you very much for joining. Lots of Mandy's friends.
The rest may not have known, that there is this session. I mean, for some reason I didn't leave and stayed on. I said, wow, okay, this looks really interesting. But I got a funny feeling that the other people didn't know somehow, and they've all.
Yeah, I think I forgot to pre-announce it. We almost always do it. So I think that's my bad this round. I think you have to join us next round, and you can really see more people.
You should have their cameras on and they would say hi, introduce themselves, but I think this group is pretty shy.
LJ, I wanted to ask you a question. It looks so cozy in there. You're the only one with the proper fire, with the fireside chat. Is it really cold outside?
It's about 4 degrees.
Oh, that's
cold.
Oh,
that is cold. Oh, no, thank you.
That's not cold, that's freezing.
My air conditioning is on 26 right now. It's very nice.
Well, maybe it's a little warmer now.
There's something very atmospheric about a real fire like that. It's lovely.
Actually, it's moving up now over 10. So it was cold this morning. So I heat my home by a fire. So every morning I get up and I start it, and I just have a fire in the morning, and then that keeps it's a log cabin, and so it keeps my home warm.
Actually, Prof. Judith Lammy has just chatted and said she has serious fireside envy looking at your cabin and fireside.
I didn't even realize I forgot that we were having a fireside chat. I just had this idea. I thought, like to make it welcoming, as was mentioned last week, have your coffee. I thought, oh, I'll just organize myself around my fireplace. And then Mandy got on our fireside chat.
Perfect.
It's great. It's great. I was just wondering where I was going to find a fireside to put it. And then there you have it.
So, Elizabeth, I just wanted to mention, I worked in Malaysia at UPM and UITM, and we had also with UKM. So I've been to Malaysia many, many times in the last 7 years in my role at Ohio University. We have a Tun Abdul Razak. We have a big chair program. The Tun Abdul Razak chair here at Ohio University, my former university. So I just wanted to mention that, and I noticed other colleagues from Malaysia were on, and so we have.
I thought I saw your the vice chancellor, right?
Datin Aini was on.
Yeah, I thought I espied her writing something there. There she is. Yeah, Prof. Aini Idris.
Yeah, no, I work very closely with her. I have huge respect
for her. She's gorgeous. Yeah.
She's just an amazing person. And again, another role model, tremendous. But anyways, I just wanted to mention that since there's such a strong Malaysian contingent here, so.
I have one criticism, LJ. Given that you spent all that time in Malaysia, you must know that whatever room you go into at any university in Malaysia, there's always food. So where's your coffee and biscuits? Yes, Elizabeth, why am I not surprised? Whenever I go to Malaysia, 2-3 days, and I'm half a stone heavier. It's back to the gym when I get home.
I just tweeted last night. I said, Malaysia and food. Please complete this sentence. Malaysia and food is like what?
Best food in the world. Best food in the world.
Every time you have Malaysian, it's food. Very hard to lose weight.
Impossible.
Yeah, Mandy, tell me about it.
It's like 5 meals a day when I go to Malaysia. So your breakfast, and then the morning break, which is a full meal, by the way, and then lunch, and then afternoon tea, and then dinner, and then supper.
Oh, don't forget the durians as well, Mandy. That has to come in somewhere.
Actually, I think Yusuf Namvar was trying to say something just now.
Oh.
We haven't got a picture, but Yusuf, were you trying to say something? I saw you unmute and heard something. Yusuf Namvar.
It may have been an error. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's okay. All right.
Oh, we don't see you. Where is he?
Yeah, there's many shy people this evening.
Yeah, this tonight's a lot of shy people.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how are people doing in various parts of the world with the COVID crisis?
Oh, God, we're in crisis, all right. We're in crisis as in, tomorrow we have further, I don't know what's the word, but but we're not supposed to come back to work, and then we are asking each other, does that apply to us because we're not a factory? So there's a fair bit of confusion going on right now.
That's the same as the UK. It's very interesting that you should say that. There's a lot of confusion going on here. They have a 3-tier system, and you know what tier you're in. But when you start to look at the instructions for the tier, I mean, I've got a PhD and I don't get it. It's really quite complex.
No, it was especially when they said managers and supervisors must work from home, and then that means that the rest of people can or must come to work. Not quite sure. So and then economic activities are to resume, and continue, which means that managers and supervisors shall now all go shopping. Not very sure right now.
It's funny. It's like some animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. It's like it's like Animal Farm.
Yeah, but then they said, oh, no, this is, actually this is, only for the industries. And so then they said, you come to work 3 days, 10% of the managers are allowed to come to work, but only for 4 hours a day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We don't eat lunch. And then only for 3 days a week, which means that, so what happens to, anyway.
Yeah, but you can still go shopping in pavilions in KL, yeah?
Yeah, you know KL very well, pavilions.
Does it?
All right.
But I think the pandemic, though, has done, I think, a lot to raise, somebody mentioned, can you speak about the digital divide?
Yeah.
I think it's done a lot to raise, one, the importance of global cooperation, which we don't necessarily have, but it's really, I think, raised to see, here is a matter that is concern to every individual, but also just how affected communities are right in their own neighborhood, where some will have access to internet and some will not. And that has created the need to be very innovative. And I think teachers should be applauded for their ability to have, sending material to the internet, to individual one-on-one, and creating groups. I mean, you can just see people trying to facilitate and maintain access for everybody in this environment. And I'm really impressed, by and large, by the community rising up to try and keep the world going, keep the world economically going, and to adjust to this new environment for innovation and find new work opportunities. And it's been really inspiring in that regard. I think there's been a lot of challenges as well, and I think we've seen real vulnerabilities, but phenomenal global lessons learned here. It really is quite extraordinary.
And it's quite interesting that we're able to learn from each other. There's no one superpower leading in any way. We're all learning maybe from the smaller ones, smaller countries or whatever. How have you done it? And we're all very open. And it's great. And to see how everyone moves so quickly to embrace something which they have not tried. And like you said, all this innovation that has come on. We had a young lady reported who needed the internet connection so badly that she had to climb a tree in order to catch it. Yeah. And she just needed it, and obviously the connection was better up there, but this is about the digital divide, and I'm sure my government came in very quickly to try to address all these problems. So that there could be more equity that everyone is talking about in accessing at least the internet.
I think, in fairness, who would want to be in government anywhere at this time? I mean,
they're being criticized everywhere.
Yeah. Whatever decision you make, there's going to be somebody that thinks it's wrong. It must be dreadful.
Yeah, even in our schools, it's the same thing. You have whatever decision you make will be unpopular. You will have one group who doesn't want to come and wants everything online because they are concerned, and you have another group who says, I paid you all this money, you better open up for me fast, and then you have the parents who are equally divided. No, you cannot win this one.
No, absolutely. Guys, I'm going to have to go because I have another appointment. So I'd just like to say thanks to everybody. I've really enjoyed talking to you and working with you, and hope we get another opportunity.
Great to see you, Kevin.
Yeah. Please take care.
Yeah, and I better go back because I'm sure it's locked down already at 10 o'clock. It's just as well I live across the road. I hope there's no police roadblock. Bye, guys.
Bye,
Love to see you all. See you again. See you, Mandy.
Bye, LJ. Bye, Nestor.
Bye.